Captain Lee Miho stood on the bridge of the Starbound Dawn, watching the stars drift past like ancient memories. The ship moved silently through the dark spaces between worlds, its hull designed to bend light around it like water around a stone. For 43 years, humanity had perfected the art of being invisible. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the gentle breathing of his crew. Miho had chosen each person carefully. Dr. Park Jisoo sat at her station, her black hair pulled back as she worked with the communication systems. Her job was to listen to alien voices across the galaxy and learn their secrets. She spoke 17 different alien languages and could decode their most protected messages. Lieutenant Kim Do-hyun monitored the sensor arrays from his position near the back wall. His screens showed empty space, but Miho knew better. Out there, hidden in the darkness, were monitoring stations that had been watching alien civilizations for decades. Humanity had learned to see without being seen, to know without being known. The year was 2157, and Earth had been quiet for so long that most humans had forgotten what it felt like to make noise. The United Colonial Authority had made a simple choice when they first developed faster-than-light travel. Watch first, act later. While other species might have rushed into the galaxy with weapons and demands, humans had chosen patience. This patience had taught them many things. They learned that the Zephyrian Empire controlled trade routes through 14 star systems. They discovered that the Helix Collective bred soldier slaves on factory worlds hidden from galactic law. They found out that the Dominion species hunted intelligent beings for sport on their private hunting preserves. All of this knowledge came to them through careful observation. Human ships like the Starbound Dawn would position themselves at the edges of star systems, using advanced sensors to record everything. They mapped alien cities, learned alien customs, and decoded alien technologies. The aliens never knew they were being watched. The Galactic Council ruled from the center of the galaxy like kings who had never been questioned. 12 different alien species had joined together to control the most important worlds and trade routes. They called themselves the Guardians of Civilization, but Miho had read their private communications. He knew what they really thought about other species. Dr. Park looked up from her station, her face showing worry. "Captain, I'm getting another transmission from the Council fleet in Sector 12. They're discussing something called Operation Clean Sweep." Miho walked over to her station. The holographic display showed alien text scrolling past in neat rows. Park had programmed the computer to translate everything automatically, but she always checked the work herself. Alien languages could be tricky, and one wrong word could change everything. "What are they saying?" Miho asked. Park touched her screen and the alien voices became human words. "They're planning to expand into the Outer Rim sectors. They want to find new civilizations that they can use for workers. Listen to this part." The translated voice was cold and businesslike. "Preliminary scans show several star systems with possible intelligent life. These species should be evaluated for their usefulness. Any civilization below Class B status can be relocated to work facilities. We estimate a harvest of 2 million new laborers within 6 months." Miho felt his stomach tighten. The aliens were talking about capturing people like they were discussing a mining operation. To them, intelligent beings were just another resource to be collected and used. Lieutenant Kim turned in his chair. "Sir, they're specifically mentioning Sector 7G. That's where we have the research colonies on Kepler 442b, Ross 128b, and Proxima C." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. For 43 years, humanity had avoided contact with the Galactic Council. Their research colonies were small and hidden, designed to study alien plant and animal life without being detected. The scientists there had families, children who played in gardens under alien suns while their parents worked to unlock the secrets of new worlds. Park continued reading the transmission. "They're calling it routine expansion protocols. They plan to establish monitoring stations first, then send in evaluation teams. Any species that shows resistance will be classified as hostile and dealt with accordingly." Miho had read enough Council communications to know what "dealt with accordingly" meant. The aliens had destroyed 17 civilizations in the past century, always claiming they were defending themselves against primitive aggressors. The real reason was usually simpler. The aliens wanted something those civilizations had, whether it was their worlds, their resources, or their people. The captain walked to the main view screen, where stars shone like distant diamonds. Somewhere out there, human families were living quiet lives, studying alien flowers and measuring atmospheric conditions. They had no idea that a Council fleet was preparing to evaluate them like livestock. Dr. Park's voice was soft but urgent. "Captain, there's more. They're planning to broadcast their findings across the galaxy. Any species they classify as useful will be marked for collection. The others? She paused. The others will be marked for elimination. Kim checked his sensor readings. Sir, I'm detecting 3 Council ships moving toward the edge of our monitoring range. They're heading directly for Sector 7G. Miho nodded slowly. The moment they had always known would come was finally here. Humanity's long silence was about to end, whether they wanted it to or not. The question was no longer if they would reveal themselves to the galaxy, but how they would choose to do it. He thought about the families on those research colonies, the children playing under alien skies. He thought about the Council's casual discussions of harvesting civilizations like crops. Most of all, he thought about the choice his species had made 43 years ago to watch and wait and learn. Now it was time to show the galaxy what they had learned. Dr. Kim Tae-young was examining soil samples when the sky turned dark. He looked up from his microscope to see massive ships blocking out the sun above Kepler 442b. The research station's alarms began to sound, but he told his team to stay calm. This was the moment they had trained for their entire careers. The station sat in a valley surrounded by purple grass that swayed in the alien wind. 23 human scientists worked here, studying the planet's unique ecosystem. They had been careful never to disturb the local environment or leave traces that might be detected by passing ships. For 8 years they had lived quietly on this distant world, sending their research back to Earth through hidden communication arrays. Now 3 enormous Council ships hung in orbit like metal mountains. Each ship was over 2 kilometers long, with weapon systems that could crack a planet's surface. Dr. Tae-young had seen these ships in intelligence reports, but seeing them in person made his mouth go dry. Dr. Kim called his assistant Park Sun-hee from the communication station. We're receiving a scanning beam. They know we're here. Tae-young nodded and walked to the main console. His hands were steady as he activated the first contact protocol that every human scientist had memorized. The message went out on multiple frequencies, carrying mathematical formulas that showed humanity understood advanced physics. It included examples of human art, music, and poetry translated into symbolic language that any intelligent species should be able to understand. The response came faster than expected. A harsh voice spoke through their universal translator, the words clear but cold. Unidentified bipedal species, you will prepare for evaluation. Do not attempt to flee or resist. Compliance will ensure your survival. Dr. Tae-young took a deep breath and activated the video transmission system. The screen showed a reptilian creature with golden scales and black eyes that seemed to look right through him. The alien wore a uniform covered in symbols that probably showed his rank and achievements. Greetings, Tae-young said in his most diplomatic voice. I am Dr. Kim Tae-young representing the human species of Earth. We welcome this opportunity for peaceful contact between our civilizations. The alien stared at him for several long seconds. When it spoke, its voice carried the tone of someone trying not to laugh. High Commander Veldar of the Dominion Fleet. Your species designation is unknown. You will be classified and catalogued according to Galactic Council protocols. Tae-young felt his heart racing, but he kept his voice steady. Commander, we would be honored to share information about our species and our achievements. Humanity has developed advanced technologies in energy production, computing, medicine, and space travel. Perhaps we could arrange a formal meeting to discuss mutual cooperation. The sound that came through the communicator was definitely laughter, but it held no warmth. Commander Veldar turned to someone off-screen and said something in his own language. Other voices joined the laughter. Forgive me, Veldar said, turning back to the screen. Your primitive attempts at diplomacy are amusing. Show me these advanced technologies you mentioned. Dr. Tae-young activated a holographic display that showed detailed schematics of human fusion reactors. The technology could power entire cities using fuel extracted from ordinary seawater. He explained how the reactors worked, using terms that any spacefaring civilization would understand. Veldar watched with the expression of a teacher listening to a child explain how fire works. Crude fusion technology. We abandoned such primitive energy sources 3,000 years ago. Next, Tae-young showed examples of human quantum computers that could perform calculations impossible for traditional systems. He demonstrated their medical technologies that could regrow lost organs and cure genetic diseases. He showed images of human cities, artworks, and scientific discoveries. With each example, the alien's expression grew more dismissive. Finally, Veldar held up one clawed hand to stop the presentation. Enough, the commander said. Your species shows basic tool use capabilities, which is more than we expected from such a remote location. However, your technology remains several millennia behind civilized standards. Your biological patterns suggest mammalian origins with typical pack behavioral programming. Dr. Taeyong felt anger building in his chest, but he forced himself to remain calm. Commander, perhaps there has been some misunderstanding. Humanity has achieved faster-than-light travel and has established colonies on dozens of worlds. We have been observing galactic civilizations for several decades. This statement seemed to surprise Valdar slightly, but his expression quickly returned to bored superiority. Impossible. Our sensors would have detected any significant technological civilization in this region. You have clearly acquired some abandoned technology from a more advanced species, but lack the intelligence to use it properly. The alien turned away from the screen and began speaking to his officers in their own language. The universal translator struggled with the rapid conversation, but Taeyong caught enough words to understand. They were discussing humanity's potential usefulness as a labor force. Dr. Kim, Valdar said, returning his attention to the screen, your species will be transported to evaluation facilities where council scientists will determine your optimal function within galactic civilization. Do not be concerned. The process is designed to be minimally traumatic. The transmission ended, leaving Dr. Taeyong staring at a blank screen. Around him, his team sat in stunned silence. Park Sun-hee was the first to speak. Doctor, should we prepare the emergency protocols? Taeyong looked out the window at the alien ships that continued to block the sun. For 43 years, humanity had chosen silence over confrontation. They had watched and learned and prepared for this moment. Now he understood why Earth's leaders had been so careful to remain hidden. The Galactic Council didn't see humans as potential partners or even enemies. They saw them as useful animals that could be trained to perform simple tasks. The aliens' casual dismissal was more insulting than any declaration of war could have been. He activated the emergency communication array that would send an encoded message directly to Earth. The message was simple. First contact complete. Classification, livestock. Recommend immediate implementation of defensive protocols. As he sent the message, Dr. Taeyong wondered if the aliens would still be laughing when they learned what humanity had really been doing for the past 4 decades. Dr. Yang Su-bin crouched in the maintenance tunnel beneath New Geneva Colony, watching her people suffer through a screen no bigger than her hand. The hidden camera showed the colony's main square, where alien scientists had set up their research station like a carnival of horrors. The colony had been humanity's pride for 15 years. 2,000 people had made their homes here, building schools and gardens under the light of twin suns. Children played in parks filled with earth flowers that somehow grew better in alien soil. Farmers grew food that could feed 3 times their number. Engineers had built a water treatment plant that turned the planet's salty oceans into drinking water sweet as mountain springs. Now those same children stood in metal cages while insect-like aliens poked at them with instruments. The creatures had 6 arms each and eyes like black jewels that never seemed to blink. Their leader was called Chief Researcher Kethmar, and he spoke about humans the way a farmer might discuss his livestock. Subject 247 shows interesting responses to separation anxiety, Kethmar announced to his recording device. On the screen, Dr. Yang could see 7-year-old Lee Minjun crying for his mother, who had been taken to a different testing area. The juvenile's distress calls follow patterns we observe in pack animals when removed from their social groups. Dr. Yang's hands clenched into fists. She had watched Minjun take his first steps in the colony's medical center. She had taught his older sister Yuna how to identify safe plants in the surrounding forests. These children were not subjects or specimens. They were her neighbors, her friends, her responsibility. The aliens had arrived 3 weeks ago with ships that blotted out the sky. They claimed to represent something called the Galactic Council and said they were conducting routine evaluations of newly discovered species. The colonists had tried to welcome them, offering food and showing them around their settlement. The aliens had smiled with mandibles that clicked like broken glass and begun their tests immediately. Now human families were separated into different sections of what Kethmar called his behavioral research facility. Parents were kept away from children to test bonding disruption responses. Married couples were isolated to study pair bonding dissolution patterns. The elderly were grouped together to examine end-stage cognitive decline in primitive species. Fascinating, Kethmar continued his broadcast, speaking to unseen viewers across the galaxy. Despite their limited brain capacity, these creatures show remarkably complex social behaviors. However, our analysis confirms they lack true intelligence. Their emotional responses are simply programmed instincts, no different from what we might observe in domesticated animals. The insect alien gestured with two of his arms toward a group of colonists who were being forced to perform for the cameras. Dr. Park Ji-hoon, the colony's best musician, sat with tears on his face as he played his guitar. The aliens had told him they would hurt his daughter if he refused to demonstrate primitive noise-making behaviors. Note how the subject repeats the same sound patterns, Kethmar explained to his audience. These crude vocalizations may serve as communication methods within their pack structure, but show no evidence of artistic or creative intelligence. The neural scans confirm these are merely automatic responses to emotional stimuli. Dr. Yang had to bite her lip to keep from screaming. Park Ji-hoon's music had moved people to tears of joy at colony celebrations. His songs told stories of Earth's rivers and mountains, of love found and lost, of hope carried across impossible distances to new worlds. To hear it described as meaningless noise made her feel sick with rage. The worst part was the aliens' broadcasting system. They were sharing their findings with the entire galaxy, turning human dignity into entertainment for billions of alien viewers. Kethmar's reports went out every day, describing humans as curious animals that might be useful for simple work if properly trained. Today we tested their problem-solving abilities, the alien scientist announced during his evening broadcast. We placed food at the end of a simple maze and observed their behavior. While they eventually reached the reward, their methods were inefficient and showed no evidence of abstract thinking. A properly trained Zephyrian work animal could complete the same task in half the time. The colonists in the maze had been Dr. Yang's former students from the agricultural program. She had watched them design irrigation systems that transformed desert areas into fertile farmland. Now they stumbled through alien tests designed to make them look stupid, their faces hollow with hunger and exhaustion. In her hidden bunker, Colonel Bae Jiwon listened to the same broadcasts while cleaning her rifle. The military officer had arrived on New Geneva 2 days before the aliens, part of a routine security inspection that had probably saved the colony from complete disaster. Her team of 12 Marines had gone underground when the ships arrived, following protocols that had been planned for exactly this situation. "Colonel," whispered Sergeant Oh Dae-hoon from his position at the communication array, "Admiral Song is requesting status update from all units." Colonel Bae looked at her Marines, each one chosen for missions that officially did not exist. For 43 years they had prepared for this moment. Hidden weapons caches were buried under every human colony. Military units disguised as research teams had positioned themselves throughout human space. Emergency communication networks connected every outpost to Earth through quantum channels the aliens could not detect or interrupt. "Tell the Admiral we have visual confirmation of Council research protocols," she said quietly. "Recommend immediate activation of Ghost Protocol across all sectors." She looked back at the screen where Kethmar was explaining to the galaxy why human art was meaningless and human love was just animal instinct. The alien's voice carried the casual cruelty of someone who had never doubted his own superiority. "Sir," she whispered into her communicator, "permission to show these insects what happens when you poke the wrong nest?" The response came immediately, "Permission granted, Colonel. Time to wake the galaxy up." The morning sky above New Geneva split open like a wound, and Captain Lee Miho's ship fell through it like a steel angel of judgment. The Starbound Dawn had spent 43 years pretending to be a peaceful exploration vessel, hiding behind stealth fields and sensor scramblers. Now its true shape emerged from the darkness between stars, revealing weapon systems that could crack moons and engines that bent space itself. High Commander Veldar stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at sensor readings that made no sense. One moment his screens showed empty space around the human colony. The next moment, they displayed a fleet of over 300 warships, each one larger and more advanced than anything in the Council's military databases. "This is impossible," Veldar hissed, his reptilian voice tight with confusion. "Our sensors detected no significant technology in this system. These primitives barely understand basic physics." His weapons officer, a four-armed creature with blue skin and silver eyes, looked up from her console with obvious fear. "Commander, I'm reading energy signatures that exceed our most advanced dreadnoughts. Their shield systems are generating power levels we've never seen before." Veldar's claws clicked against his command chair as more human ships materialized around his fleet. Each vessel emerged from what looked like empty space, dropping stealth fields that had hidden them perfectly from Council sensors. In seconds, his 50-ship battle group was surrounded by a force that outnumbered them 6-1. On the surface of New Geneva, Colonel Bae Jiwon gave the signal her Marines had been waiting 3 weeks to hear. They erupted from hidden tunnels and concealed bunkers like shadows given deadly form. Their armor shifted colors to match the surrounding environment, making them nearly invisible to alien eyes and sensors. The first alien guard never saw what killed him. Sergeant O'Dehoon moved through the research facility like flowing water, his plasma rifle cutting through energy barriers that were supposed to be impenetrable. His shots were perfectly silent, leaving no trace except the smell of burned metal and the sound of alien bodies hitting the ground. Within minutes, the facility's communication systems went dark. The power generators exploded in carefully controlled bursts that left the aliens in darkness while human night vision systems turned the battlefield into a hunting ground. Emergency alarms screamed through the complex, but the Marines had already disabled the automated defense systems. Dr. Yang Su-bin walked through the facility's main laboratory, where human colonists had been caged like animals for 3 weeks. Her hands shook as she used alien access codes to open the containment cells, freeing families who had been separated and tortured for the entertainment of galactic audiences. Dr. Yang called little Lee Minjun the 7-year-old boy she had watched grow up in the colony. "Are the monsters gone?" "Yes, sweetheart," she said, lifting him into her arms. "The monsters are gone and they're never coming back." In the facility's main control room, Chief Researcher Kethmar crouched behind his desk, his 6 arms trembling as he tried to access the emergency communication system. The insect alien's compound eyes darted between the dead guards scattered around his laboratory and the human woman who had somehow entered his sealed command center. Dr. Yang approached him slowly, speaking in perfect High Imperial, the sacred language of the Galactic Council that supposedly only the most advanced species could master. Her pronunciation was flawless, her grammar more precise than many native speakers. "Greetings, Chief Researcher Kethmar of the 3rd Scientific Expedition," she said calmly. "I am Dr. Yang Su-bin of the Human Colonial Authority. I believe we need to discuss your research methods." The alien's mandibles clicked in terror. "Impossible. Your species lacks the cognitive architecture for High Imperial. Our analysis confirmed you're barely sentient." Dr. Yang smiled and the expression was not kind. "Your analysis was flawed. We've been monitoring Council communications for 43 years. We learned your languages, studied your culture, and recorded every conversation, including the ones where you discussed harvesting our children for labor camps." She held up a small device that projected holographic displays of alien documents. Kethmar's own reports appeared in the air between them, showing detailed plans for breeding programs and genetic modification experiments designed to make humans more useful as workers. "We kept very detailed records," Dr. Yang continued. "Every insult, every classification, every casual discussion about treating intelligent beings like livestock. The galaxy will be very interested to see what the Council really thinks about lesser species." Above the planet, Admiral Song Hyenwa's fleet completed its emergence from hyperspace. Ships that had been hiding in asteroid belts and empty star systems for decades revealed themselves simultaneously. The massive vessels carried weapons that had been designed in secret laboratories on Earth, powered by energy sources the Council had never imagined. President Cho Sungmin's voice reached every inhabited world in the galaxy through communication networks that humanity had been secretly building for 4 decades. Her message was broadcast in 47 different alien languages, each one spoken with perfect accent and flawless grammar. "Citizens of the galaxy," the president said, her voice carrying the calm authority of someone who had prepared for this moment her entire life. "For too long, you have accepted the Galactic Council's claim that they represent the highest form of civilization. Today you will see what true civilization looks like." The broadcast showed footage from Kethmar's research facility, displaying the cages where human families had been separated and tortured. It revealed the Council's secret documents discussing the harvesting of intelligent species. Most damning of all, it played recordings of Council leaders laughing as they planned to turn entire civilizations into slave labor. High Commander Veldar watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist. Human ships moved with impossible precision, their attacks coordinated across light years as if controlled by a single mind. His officers reported system failures as alien technology was overwhelmed by human electronic warfare systems they couldn't detect or counter. "Send surrender signals," he ordered, his voice hollow with defeat. "All ships stand down immediately." The war lasted exactly 72 hours. When it ended, the galaxy had learned that the quiet observers from the Outer Rim had become its new masters, and they had very different ideas about how civilizations should treat each other. Former High Commander Veldar sat in his cell and stared at the walls that showed pictures of Earth. Blue oceans stretched to horizons where white clouds drifted over green forests. Children played on beaches while their parents watched from under palm trees that swayed in gentle winds. It was the most beautiful world he had ever seen, and it belonged to the species he had called primitive animals. The cell was bigger than his quarters on the flagship had been. The bed was soft, the food was better than military rations, and the temperature was always perfect. Human guards checked on him twice a day, asking if he needed anything or if he felt sick. They treated him better than he had treated his own officers. Dr. Park Ji-soo came to visit him every morning, carrying books and data tablets filled with human knowledge. She never acted like his captor, even though she wore the uniform of the human colonial authority. Instead, she sat across from him like a teacher talking to a curious student. "Today I want to show you something interesting," she said, activating a holographic display that showed tiny creatures with wings. "These are birds from Earth. They fly thousands of kilometers every year, traveling from one continent to another. For a long time, humans wondered how such small creatures could navigate across oceans without getting lost." Veldar watched the birds move across the display, their wings beating in perfect rhythm as they followed invisible paths through the sky. "What does this have to do with your military technology?" Dr. Park smiled. "We studied them for decades. We learned that birds use magnetic fields, star positions, and even smell to find their way. When we developed our stealth systems, we copied the way birds hide from predators. They change their flight patterns, use weather to mask their movements, and travel in groups that look like natural phenomena." She changed the display to show human ships dropping out of stealth mode around the Council fleet. "Your sensors looked for metal and energy signatures. Our ships learned to mimic space dust, asteroid formations, and solar radiation. We became invisible by studying creatures that hide from hunters every day." Veldar felt his throat tighten. His military academy had taught him that advanced technology came from superior intelligence and industrial power. The idea that humans had learned their most advanced skills from tiny flying animals made him feel foolish. "Here's another example," Dr. Park continued, showing him images of insects working together to build complex structures. "These are ants from Earth. They organize themselves into armies, build cities, and coordinate attacks without any central command. Each ant follows simple rules, but together they create something much more intelligent than any individual." The display showed human battle fleets moving in perfect coordination during their attack on the Council forces. Ships that were separated by thousands of kilometers acted like parts of a single organism, responding to threats before they were even detected. "Your artificial intelligence learned strategy by watching ants?" Veldar asked quietly. "Among other things," Dr. Park said. "We also studied how wolves hunt in packs, how dolphins communicate across long distances, and how trees share resources through underground root networks. Nature taught us everything we needed to know about cooperation, communication, and survival." Through the cell's window, Veldar could see Earth's capital city in the distance. Buildings grew from the landscape like living things, their walls covered with plants that cleaned the air and provided food. Transportation flowed through the city like water through a river system, carrying people and goods without noise or pollution. "This is what confused me most," he admitted. "Your cities look organic, like they grew instead of being built. Our architects design structures to dominate the landscape. You make yours blend into it." Dr. Park nodded. "We learned that the strongest structures are the ones that work with nature instead of fighting against it. A tree can bend in the strongest wind without breaking because it's flexible. A mountain can stand for millions of years because it's part of the bedrock beneath it." She showed him images of the new Galactic Federation chambers, carved directly into a mountain range on Earth's southern continent. The meeting halls followed the natural curves of the stone, with rooms that opened to gardens where representatives from different worlds could breathe air that matched their home atmospheres. "Over 200 species are sending representatives," Dr. Park explained. "Many of them were afraid to speak out against the Council before. Now they're excited to share their knowledge and culture with the galaxy." Veldar had read reports about some of those species. The Council had classified them as useful only for manual labor or resource extraction. He was beginning to understand that the Council had been wrong about many things. Captain Lee Miho visited him on the last day before the fleet departed for the galaxy's outer rim. The human officer looked tired but satisfied, like someone who had finished a difficult but important job. "I have a question," Veldar said. "Your technology, your military power, your intelligence networks, you could have conquered the Council decades ago. Why did you wait so long?" Miho sat down across from him, his expression thoughtful. "Because conquest was never our goal. We wanted to understand the galaxy before we tried to change it. The Council made the mistake of thinking that power meant you had the right to control others. We learned that real power comes from knowing when not to use it." The human captain stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the ships preparing to depart for unknown regions of space. We spent 43 years watching you make the same mistakes over and over. Treating other species as inferior, taking resources without permission, assuming that advanced technology made you superior beings. We wanted to be better than that. Veldar watched the ships launch toward the stars, carrying mixed crews of humans and former council species on missions of exploration and peaceful contact. For the first time in his life he found himself hoping they would succeed.